Chapter 38 to 40. By the time Yuto saw Konoha in the distance, it had already been half a month since he left. After acquiring the gold and silver from Takeda Takeshi, he exchanged the money that very night and purchased a large amount of chemical and medical supplies. He then established 2 more underground secret bases in the Land of Rain and the Land of Waterfalls. Owl's body had been obliterated, leaving no trace behind, so there was no need for any special disposal. As for Takeda and Kaoru's bodies, Yuto buried both of them in the Land of Waterfalls, a place with massive waterfalls and mountains. According to his previous life sayings, it had excellent feng shui. Maybe in the next life, they could become a pair of inseparable lovers. The tasks seemed few but were quite tedious, requiring immense patience. Just finding Kaoru's corpse remains with his Byakugan took considerable effort from Yuto. When he left the village, the snow reached his calves. Now, upon his return, spring buds had sprouted, and trees had new branches. Winter in the world of shinobi had ended. It was now the early spring when everything began to grow again. Smelling the faint fragrance of wildflowers and stepping on the slightly moist soil, Yuto walked towards the towering Hokage rock, re-entering Konoha. As soon as he passed through the gate, Yuto noticed an unsettling discord. It was clearly the lively early spring, yet there was little joy in the village. Many people had furrowed brows, their steps heavy and hurried. The winds of total war had finally blown to the most stable village, Konoha. Sighing, the young branch member of the Hyuga clan walked straight into the Senju compound. Half a year ago, upon returning from a mission, he first visited the Hyuga clan head and then reported to the Hokage. However, now, as Tsunade's disciple, and having received her permission to leave the village temporarily for training, Yuto naturally went to find his teacher first upon returning. Stepping into the Senju compound, he barely took a few steps before leaping into the air. The next moment, a deep pit appeared where he had just stood. A blonde woman smashed her hand into the ground, the resulting stones flying with more force than a standard shinobi's kunai throw. What a peculiar welcoming ceremony, Tsunade-sensei! Yuto grinned and charged at Tsunade, throwing a punch. Boom! Yuto had reached a decent level of chakra-enhanced strength, making their battle seem earth-shaking. Dust rose throughout the Senju compound, and several buildings collapsed. In the end, Tsunade was still superior. Using a technique akin to gentle fist, she subdued Yuto, pinning his arms behind him and pressing him down while panting heavily. "You've gotten a lot stronger, kid." A strand of her blonde hair fell onto Yuto's cheek, tickling him. Yuto chuckled. "Sensei is one of the legendary Sannin, a mountain I could never hope to surpass." "Cut the flattery," Tsunade snorted, releasing his arms. She scrutinized her disciple carefully. "You've grown quite a bit taller since you left. Well, you're only 13, still growing. Not as tall as Sensei. Your timing, the rhythm of your strikes, and the control of your chakra bursts are vastly improved compared to a few months ago. More importantly, your fists are much harder. You've been training diligently, Yuto." "Not as hard as Sensei's." Tsunade grinned mischievously, messing up his hair. "People say the Hyuga prodigy is calm and composed. I see everyone's been fooled by you, little rascal." Yuto, now standing at Tsunade's ear level, felt most comfortable with the height difference. Tsunade, like a delinquent girl, slung her arm around his shoulder as they walked to her place. "Tell me, Yuto," Tsunade said, sitting on the tatami mat leaning back on her arms. "Who wanted to send a letter to Jiraiya?" Yuto tidied his hair and replied, "The leaders of the Akatsuki organization in Amegakure, Yahiko, Konan, and Nagato." Tsunade tilted her head. "I don't know them." Yuto described their appearances, triggering her memory of the 3 orphans they encountered during the Second Shinobi War in Amegakure. "Those poor kids. I didn't expect them to become capable shinobi." "Sensei, What is Jiraiya-sama's relationship with Yahiko and the others? Jiraiya stayed in the land of rain for a while and taught them. Tsunade waved her hand dismissively. The letter has already been delivered to Jiraiya by a reliable person. He appreciates your help. Oh, Yuto blinked. Just a thank you? Wait, that's not right. Jiraiya, known as the Gallant, was generous and wealthy. Delivering a letter might be a small favor, but a mere verbal thanks. He should at least treat me to a lavish meal. Yuto might never know that Jiraiya's thank you gift had already arrived at the Senju compound a few days ago. Tsunade, upon receiving it, was infuriated. Jiraiya's gift was none other than the manuscript of his work, Icha Paradise. Although not yet published, the draft showcased vibrant language, exquisite illustrations, and bold, unrestrained techniques, setting a new precedent in the shinobi world. Tsunade tore the book apart in anger. Damn, Jiraiya, can't you be serious? My disciple is only 13, such an innocent boy, pure as a blank sheet, and you send him this kind of material. Clearly, he wasn't beaten enough, Tsunade thought, clearing her throat before continuing. Let's put Jiraiya aside for now. How's the development of your new jutsu? Almost complete. The offensive part is fully developed. Only the defensive part remains. As Yuto spoke, he unwrapped the bandages on his arms, revealing scarred skin. Using it once destroys 70% of the skin and fractures the bones. Using it a second time will likely evaporate all blood and dehydrate muscles completely. If used a third time consecutively, I'll lose the entire arm. Tsunade straightened, examining his arm. As a master of medical ninjutsu, she could infer the jutsu's immense power just from the scars. Show me the jutsu on the back mountain tomorrow morning, she said seriously. Leave the rest to me. Tien, I just found out Icha Paradise translates to make out paradise in English lol. With you here, sensei, I naturally feel at ease. Yuto smiled, wrapping his arms and hands with bandages again. Huh? Sensei, where's Shizune? I sent her to the academy. The blonde beauty yawned. I've been quite busy lately and can't look after her. Letting her go to school to interact with peers is a good thing. Yuto was a bit surprised. Tsunade-sensei, have you resumed your duties in the village? No. The old man just assigned me some tasks. Oh, by the way, this involves you as well. Tsunade paused before continuing. Yuto, you've been away from the village for 2 months. How do you feel about the outside world? Life is difficult in most places. The land of fire is still peaceful. Yuto spoke sincerely. Setting aside personal biases, Konoha is indeed a peaceful place compared to the rest of the world, which is much worse off. Is it chaotic? Very chaotic, sensei. Around the land of fire, the signs of unknown shinobi appearing are increasing. War is imminent, right? Yes. Tsunade nodded. Having experienced the Second Shinobi World War, she was familiar with such situations. It could be tomorrow or the next moment. War could break out any time, depending on who loses patience first. The first combat unit of Konoha has already assembled, led by Orochimaru. Given the current situation, the village needs a lot of combat power and capable elites. In a few days, the old man will promote a few young people to Jonin. This not only expands the elite team, but also boosts morale. Look, the flames of Konoha burn unceasingly, and excellent seeds keep emerging. The old man insisted I be the chief examiner, probably because he thinks I'm too idle. Ahem. Back to the point, I've seen the list of those to be promoted to Jonin. You're on it, and so is Hatake Kakashi, the son of White Fang. Yuto suddenly felt a sense of relief, thinking, finally, I have someone above me. With my own sensei as the chief examiner, how can I lose? Perhaps guessing her disciple's thoughts, the blonde woman flicked Yuto's forehead protector. You are my disciple, but I won't go easy on you. Understand? Understood. Sensei has a broad mind. embracing the entire village with her tremendous love. Heh. Tsunade glanced down at herself, feeling that his words had a hint of teasing. If it were Jiraiya speaking, she would have punched him already. But looking up, she saw her 13-year-old disciple's pure eyes, in a sense, purer than paper, and immediately felt she was overthinking. Yuto was a very positive kid, unlike that lecherous Jiraiya. The blonde woman coughed lightly to hide her embarrassment. "Stop being cheeky. In short, I won't give you special treatment. I'll even make it harder for you to pass because you're my disciple, the genius of the Hokage's lineage, a role model. But if you fail because of this, She clenched her hand, creating a popping sound. Understood. Yuto nodded vigorously. But Sensei, I remember my accumulated mission merits are not enough for Jonin promotion. War could break out any time. We can't follow the usual rules, Tsunade stated. Got it, Sensei. Oh, and these are for you. I went to the land of waterfalls and got some gems, all thumb-sized, perfect for carrying around as natural gambling chips. After having lunch at Tsunade's place and chatting for a while, Yuto left the Senju clan grounds in the afternoon. At this time, due to the tense situation outside, the village had reduced mission assignments and recalled many shinobi. Walking through the village, Yuto encountered many acquaintances. Kakashi Hatake with his half-face mask, the energetic Obito Uchiha, the close friends Sarutobi Asuma and Kurenai Yuhi. He even saw a little kid carrying an even smaller kid buying candy on the street. Shisui and Itachi? Itachi was only a few months old, but those distinctive tear troughs made him easily recognizable for his age. Yuto glanced at them but continued on his way. Shisui and Itachi could be set aside for now. They were too young to be of any use. Plucking their eyes wouldn't be beneficial yet. Yuto soon arrived at the Hyuga clan grounds. Unexpectedly, he didn't see Hiashi Hyuga. After inquiring, he learned that Hiashi and several other clan leaders had been summoned to the Hokage building for a meeting. War is indeed imminent. With Hiashi away, and Hiruzen Sarutobi likely too busy to listen to his report, Yuto had nothing else to do today. The sudden free time made him feel a bit uneasy. Should I find Sensei? The thought crossed Yuto's mind, but he quickly shook his head. Knowing Tsunade, she was probably getting ripped off at the casino. With nowhere to go, he returned to his home in the Hyuga clan grounds. It was still cold and quiet. After being vacant for 2 months, cobwebs had formed in the corners. Yuto sighed and took out cleaning tools to thoroughly clean the place. Thanks to his growing body and training in chakra-enhanced strength and medical ninjutsu, his coordination had greatly improved, making cleaning much faster. Before dusk, Yuto had cleaned the entire house. Chakra could be seen as the productivity of the shinobi world, highly efficient. With chakra, everything could be done with half the effort. After finishing the chores, Yuto didn't feel hungry. He didn't bother cooking and lay in his room, staring blankly at the ceiling. He didn't know how long he laid there, but suddenly, he got up and left the house. Walking out of the clan grounds, down the familiar path, he arrived at his secret training spot. Yuto took a deep breath, feeling much more at ease. When doing nothing, he always felt fear and unease. The cursed seal on his forehead seemed to drive him to keep moving forward without rest. Unlike those relaxed transmigrators who could enjoy a leisurely life, he never experienced that. Born to toil! Yuto mocked himself, dragging out a dummy from a tree hollow and setting it up in the forest. Bang, 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 bang. Yuto continuously struck, using all the techniques he had learned. At the point of exhaustion, he finally felt calm. The next morning, at the Senju clan's rear mountain, Yuto sat on a smooth green stone slab, eating rice balls and dried meat that Tsunade brought him, occasionally sipping hot fish soup. At 13, Yuto was at the age when a growing boy can eat an adult out of house and home. As a shinobi, his appetite was enormous. Shizune stared at the empty food box in astonishment, as if seeing a rare animal. You won't explode like a balloon, will you? Shizune asked, eyes wide. Of course not, Yuto said, patting his stomach. I'm not foolish. Once I'm full, I stop eating. He paused, puzzled. Sensei is a taijutsu master. Her appetite should be bigger than mine. Nearby, Tsunade, who was fixing her hair, shot him a glare. It's very rude to comment on a lady's appetite, you know. While they talked, Yuto finished his meal and took a deep breath. I'm done. Yeah, about 70% full, which is perfect for training. Shizune picked up the food box and, since she had to go to school, didn't dawdle and skipped down the mountain. Tsunade watched her student leave and sighed. You're only a year older than Shizune, yet you're much more mature. Yuto stood up without replying, distancing himself and stretching his wrists and neck, also removing his bandages. Tsunade chuckled. Being cautious, huh? Don't worry, I won't ambush you. She beckoned to him. Come on, use that jutsu on me. Sensei, Yuto said seriously, if I hit you directly, it could be deadly. You won't burst from eating rice balls. Do you think I'm foolish enough to take the hit head-on? Tsunade retreated. Come on, my cute student. You're 100 years too early to think you can kill me. Yuto understood. With her strength of 100 seal, allowing her to use creation rebirth, her recovery ability was unparalleled in the ninja world. She could handle it without worry. Heat rose in the back mountain. The leaves instantly dried and withered, and sweat beaded on Tsunade's neck and face. This was just the prelude, nearly setting the forest ablaze. This jutsu's power exceeds my expectations, Tsunade thought. She didn't hesitate, biting her thumb and slamming her hands on the ground. Summoning! Rashomon! Boom! A giant gate appeared in the forest, massive and imposing like a small mountain, with a grotesque face carved on it, making it intimidating. Lions, Yuto murmured, charging forward. Fang bite! He struck the middle of the summoned Rashomon, the impact shattering the surrounding trees. With a loud boom, Rashomon was penetrated, the edges melting into molten metal. Yuto wavered but quickly reached Tsunade, his right hand striking her abdomen. With the residual force of Lion's fang bite, he knocked Tsunade through over 10 trees before finally stopping. I overestimated myself. I shouldn't have taken the hit directly, Tsunade thought bitterly, but maintained her composure. That's enough, Yuto. The chakra dissipated. Hearing his teacher's words, Yuto quickly withdrew his hand. Tsunade's clothes were shredded at her abdomen, revealing her fair skin imprinted with Yuto's handprint. Impressive, Yuto. Tsunade examined the damaged Rashomon and her own injuries. Although the high temperature and fangs are flashy, the real damage comes from the rapid flow of chakra. Unlike the Rasengan's central rotation, your jutsu is more complex, with many small vortices and counter-directional mini-whirlwinds. Ouch! She winced, touching her bruises. The internal organs are damaged too. It feels like an earth release blunt force, and the air-splitting charge resembles lightning release. Honestly, after piercing Rashomon, this still has such power. An ordinary jonin would die from this, and most defensive jutsu would be ineffective. It's an excellent jutsu, very suitable for you, but it has flaws. Your arm must be hard to lift now. The strain on the user is immense. It's unquestionably S rank, but would also be classified as a forbidden technique. Tsunade rubbed her abdomen, her fair skin marked by burns and cuts, with bruised internal organs beneath. As she pondered how to mitigate the jutsu's side effects, Tsunade wasn't a masochist. She had Yuto injure her to better understand the jutsu. Lion's Fang Bite's self-harm aspect stems from its dual nature of damaging the enemy while similarly affecting the user. The difference is merely in degree, but the destructive principle is identical. To perfectly address this burden, One must experience the same trauma as the user. Tsunade's years of combat had ingrained reflexes in her. At the moment Yuto's hand touched her abdomen, she almost instinctively retaliated. She understood that Yuto had a chance to bite through her waist. Yuto held back at the last moment, Tsunade realized, glancing at him. This student was reliable, understanding the limits. As she healed her abdominal injury, Tsunade contemplated neutralizing the jutsu's severe side effects. The best method would be adding a membrane between the body and the external chakra, blocking the violent chakra's self-harm. However, this would greatly shorten Lion's Fang Bite's duration, even causing it to collapse instantly, as the protective layer would also obstruct Yuto's chakra. Unidirectional fluid transport, Tsunade thought suddenly. It could transmit chakra while blocking destructive force. To her knowledge, no physical material had this property. Reluctantly, she considered that a slug might suffice. Before using the jutsu, wrapping the slug around the arm could work, as slugs are immune to physical attacks and can transmit chakra as summoned creatures. But this would be too disrespectful to the slug and impractical in the unpredictable conditions of ninja battles. Tsunade rubbed her forehead, suddenly thinking of her strength of 100 seal. An alternative approach that didn't involve blocking but a more subtle method to mitigate the damage flashed in her mind. Sealing!